The third impeachment attempt. Can Thanedar stop Trump's power grab? Welcome back to LCC News. Today's top story could shape the course of American politics for years to come. On April 28, 2025, Representative Shri Thanedar of Michigan did what few in Congress have dared to do during President Donald Trump's second term. He introduced not one, but 7 articles of impeachment. This isn't just symbolic, it's a strategic escalation, a constitutional reckoning, and above all, it's a challenge to a presidency that has grown more emboldened with each passing month. But what exactly are these 7 articles? Do they stand a chance in a divided Congress? And what are the deeper implications for democracy, law, and the upcoming 2026 midterms? Let's dive deep. Let's begin by breaking down the articles themselves one by one. Obstruction of justice and abuse of executive power. Representative Thanedar alleges that President Trump has consistently interfered with judicial processes. From unlawful deportations that ignore due process to outright defiance of federal court orders, this article accuses the president of dismantling judicial independence and setting dangerous precedents. Usurpation of congressional spending. Trump is accused of withholding or redirecting funds that Congress lawfully appropriated, especially in dismantling agencies seen as critical by lawmakers. Thanedar sees this as a direct violation of Article 1 of the Constitution, which grants spending powers to Congress, not the presidency. Abuse of trade powers and international aggression. This charge refers to the imposition of damaging tariffs, often without clear national security justification, and threats of military intervention against sovereign nations. Critics have described this pattern as executive overreach under the guise of foreign policy. Violations of First Amendment rights. The 4th article is deeply tied to freedom of speech. Trump is alleged to have used the weight of the executive branch to retaliate against journalists, whistleblowers, and even attorneys critical of his administration. Thanedar argues this undermines America's foundational right to dissent. Creation of an illegal executive department, DOGE. Perhaps the most unorthodox charge, Trump is accused of creating an unconstitutional agency, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, and appointing Elon Musk to lead it. Thanedar claims this office bypasses Senate confirmation and lacks any congressional mandate. Bribery and corruption. This charge alleges that Trump selectively prosecuted or ignored criminal investigations in exchange for political favors. While lacking a smoking gun, the article cites a pattern of behavior that mirrors historical examples of quid pro quo. Tyrannical overreach and subversion of constitutional order. The final article paints a sweeping picture that President Trump has moved to consolidate unchecked power, undermining democratic institutions and threatening the balance of power. Now, here's the reality. None of these articles are expected to move forward in a Republican-controlled House, but that doesn't mean they're meaningless. For Representative Thanedar, this is a political and moral line in the sand. It forces lawmakers, especially moderate Democrats and independents, to publicly reckon with Trump's second-term behavior. It also energizes the Democratic base. With the 2026 midterms looming, these articles can serve as rallying points for progressives who feel the party has been too soft in confronting Trump's post-re-election agenda. Let's rewind history for a moment. This marks the 3rd impeachment push against Donald Trump. The first in 2019 was over abuse of power related to Ukraine. The second in 2021 followed the January 6 Capitol riot. Neither resulted in conviction. But Thanedar's move is different. It's not a reaction to a single scandal. It's a comprehensive challenge to Trump's governing philosophy. It bundles executive overreach, constitutional violations, and the creeping normalization of authoritarianism into one bold legal statement. Historians may one day point to this moment, not as a failed legislative effort, but as a moral alarm. Reactions have been predictably polarized. Progressive Democrats hailed Thanedar's courage. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "This is how we fight for the Constitution." Meanwhile, Speaker of the House Elise Stefanik dismissed the articles as radical left-wing theater. Senator John Ossoff offered a more nuanced take, suggesting that while the articles are unlikely to succeed, they highlight dangerous executive behavior that must be checked. Fox News anchors called the move desperate, while MSNBC panelists labeled it long overdue. And then there's the American public touts impeach Trump again trended on X, formerly Twitter, for 2 straight days. TikTok was flooded with legal breakdowns and Gen Z creators summarizing each article. Meanwhile, conservative influencers mocked the move, calling Thanedar a clown in a suit. Polls conducted by Gallup just days after the announcement showed a slight bump in disapproval ratings for Trump, particularly among suburban independents. So what's really at stake here? The impeachment articles may die in committee, but the political conversation they ignite could shape the 2026 midterms and even the 2028 presidential race. For Democrats, it's a test. Can they reframe the conversation around rule of law, not just personality politics? For Republicans, it's a trap. Will defending Trump alienate moderates? And for Trump, it's yet another battle in his war against the institutions he's long derided, a war that could define his legacy, win or lose. The US Constitution is more than a document. It's a contract between the government and the governed. Whether Thanedar's effort is successful or not, it forces the nation to ask, what are the limits of executive power? And who has the courage to enforce them? Stay informed, stay vigilant, and as always, thank you for watching LCC News.